In 1996, I was riding the subway and I met a really sweet girl who I'm friends with to this day. Hi, Shayna. And we immediately got along. And 1 week later, we were visiting and we were at a restaurant and she ordered a torta, an avocado torta, with, I remember she said to the waitress, no cheese, no sour cream. And I'm like, ooh, you're a vegetarian? And she's like, yes. And so, when we got to her house, she asked me, well, she said, actually, I'm vegan. And she's like, would you like to know why I'm vegan and what it's all about? And I'm like, sure. And so she went into her closet and she pulled out all these PETA pamphlets. And they were hardcore. And for me, it was the images. The way, and she went through everything one by one. She's like, these are how the pigs are treated. And she showed me all the photos. And she's like, and these are how the cows are treated. And she showed me the photos and they were all horrendous. And then she's like, and I'm like, well, what about chicken and fish? And it's like, well, they're animals too. And she showed me how they were treated and how the fish were treated. And well, I'm like, well, what about eggs and dairy? What about that? And she's like, well, the cows, are treated so horrendously. And it was the images that had the huge impact on me, because then I saw this is where the food that I eat comes from, because in a package, it's not shown. If there was a picture of the slaughterhouse of the cow on the package of the hamburger that someone was eating, they would probably never eat it. And if a person's been eating a certain kind of food all their life and they don't know the connection to it, and it's actually been brought to them, like these hamburgers are brought to them with like good times and happy family gatherings, and they don't know where the food comes from, and that something is really going through hardcore shit and losing its life and being treated so poorly, just so that this is what goes into that food that a person's eating, that they have an emotional connection with, a mental connection with good times, and also being told this is what's healthy for you as well, like, beef up, milk got milk, and things like that. The edible egg, pork, the white meat, there's all these things going on, and they're making it sound so good. And it's just a mass marketing franchise. But those images of the animals were what got to me, and knowing that that's how they were treated, and that's what went into the food. And I said, I can't contribute to that. I stopped meat that day. I stopped eating meat immediately that day, and it was a shock for me because that was not my plan. I noticed I was gravitating, when I look back, I noticed I was gravitating towards eating a lot more vegetarian choices and picking the meat out of the food that I was eating. It was happening on its own subconsciously. And when it happened, I was really happy. And I found so many more food choices that I'd never known before. If the world and the mass media and the major parts of society are showing, the animal products in the forefront, and all these other foods, these exotic plant foods, these beautiful fruits and vegetables, and all their hundreds and hundreds and thousands of varieties, and not only that, but the nutritional benefits of them, with the meat and the dairy and the processed food industry up in the forefront, you don't hear about, kale having calcium and magnesium more than milk. You don't hear about, how hemp seeds can repair your brain from depression, by rejuvenating the brain tissue. Do they know that, who's doing commercials about spirulina having more protein than cow product meat? Are these things out in the forefront? No, there are other things that are. So other people you just can't help it. This is what is being brought to people, and when you search and find out something different, and you find out what's really going on, and it links up, it changes your mind state completely. That's what it has done for me, for sure. And so I gave up meat that day. And I did it for ethical reasons. And at the time, I had had ulcerative colitis for 11 years. I had it at 11, and at that time I was 20, and it was awful. It was huge. It was consuming, it consumed a lot of my youth. I had it at a young age, at 11, so it had taken a little bit of shine off of my teen years, and I was 20. I was just getting started. I was just a kid. And I didn't know anything about health and nutrition, obviously, at the time. I knew only what I'd known, like what most of us have all known, you know, growing up an American kid, standard American society. So having a completely different perspective that made sense to me was my motivation. But I noticed 1 month after, 2 months after, I started feeling better. My health started improving, my digestion started improving, and a really big thing happened to me. After about 3 months into it, I just remember waking up and feeling like a cloud of heaviness that was like anger and depression and bad moods, and moods that just felt like they were just beyond me. Just like, you know, you just have random bad mood days. Like, these were just like going away. I was feeling this clarity and this lightness and this clear-headedness, and it was just magical. This weight seriously lifted out of my head and from my emotional state and my body that I'd never known since, you know, that magical feeling that you feel as a child. That was huge for me. I just really felt like myself, beginning to feel like myself again. So now I've been vegetarian for 18 years and I've been vegan for 9 years. And so the biggest thing that it was for me with going vegan was letting go of cheese. Because coming from Chicago, it was pizzas and lasagnas and amazing Italian. Those were the emotional connections that I felt with food, and feeling good and feeling comfort food. That's what it was. And when I was able to get out of that experience, I was able to fully embrace being vegan. And what really helped me was, okay, the Not Milk website, there's a book called Milk, the Deadly Poison. Check that out. Removing my emotional and mouth attachment from food required having a bridge from that world into being vegan was definitely fulfilling my nutritional needs and finding healthier alternatives, which I did find. Later I'd become a raw vegan chef, and that really became an epic tool on my belt for life. We'll get into that too. Also, it was the education of knowing where the dairy came from and how the cows are treated. Dairy, I was already lactose intolerant, but it was an addiction for me. Eggs, no problem. That's easy. Eggs are... When I fully became vegan, I noticed it was easy to maintain my most natural weight. And I noticed that just health maintenance was overall much more easy. I've been a raw food chef for 13 years now. Its nutrition at its highest healed me and rejuvenated me and cleared up my mind and head and emotional state and life. What goes on inside reflects in your life, and so that cleanup really has been a miracle. And one thing I must point out, going vegetarian was easy for me. Going vegan was a heck of a journey. The raw food experience, these things take time. I had to eventually learn to go at my own pace when it came to raw foods, especially because there's just so much literature that says, you know, go 100% raw, that the plant nutrition showed its benefits immediately for me, and I needed to find a balance. And I learned on that journey that your body is going to go at the pace it's going to go, and it'll let you know, and it's a learning experience to learn how to listen to your body and what it needs and wants from you. Being vegan in a world where food and animal products can come from a place of cruelty is not always easy. And as far as friends go, there's a part of me that has held back as of in recent times. I used to be a very loud and proud vegan who would spray paint fast food restaurants and be very loud in restaurants and in health food stores when asked why, because of my deep passion. And I like that aspect of myself, and I choose to channel it in a more educational purpose. We all have different experiences in life. As far as, in my experience, I had to save my life with nutrition, so I went on a fervent search for plant food nutrition, and I learned about raw food and know a lot about plant food and health and nutrition, and especially in the last 13 years. So I know that not everybody has that experience of going so heavily into it that they see through the eyes that I'd see through when it comes to nutrition and food. And I understand that, so there's that aspect of me where I live and let live, but there's also a part of me I really want to speak up, and sometimes I think if I did, I'd make them cry. But I'm speaking up now, and I will keep speaking up. It's just taken a while for me to do so.